Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today we are celebrating the 2-year anniversary of Gems of War on Steam. Yes, it's actually been 2 years since it came out on Steam. If we go right over here, look at that. November 20th, November 20th, just 2 years later. So to imagine, this game has been out for 2 whole solid years. So for that, I'm actually going to be doing a little bit of a throwback, something different than what I normally do. I'm actually going to be doing a top 10 video, but instead of doing anything that we would be normally doing, I'm going to be doing a top 10 on teams that used to be good. Most of these teams aren't really that good anymore, but based on the constant changes that this game has over the years, I'll be showing 10 of them that used to be like extremely good back in the day, or very annoying, or very funny, or something of the like. And here we go, 2-year Gems of War Steam. Just have that, normal redeem code, 2 treasure maps, 1 gem key, 200 souls, and 2,500 gold. And let's just get into this now. So over to troops, over down, and let's start at the number 10. And there we are. I almost didn't click on the right one, but there we go. Number 10. Quite a bit of nostalgia from this. This used to be one of the most insane teams ever, way back in the day. It's actually not that horrible to use it right now, but this used to be like the team to use. This was back all the way when there's quite a few different things here. For one, the level cap was only about 15 at the time. Stats used to be like way lower. And Gloomleaf used to be extremely good, and it even got a buff at one point, which made it just absolutely insane and broken, which had to get it a mana crease, if I'm not mistaken, and you could just keep taking all of their attack, all of their armor, and you basically get an unkillable Gloomleaf with a bunch of other things that you can back it up with. Vinoxia wasn't exactly used much as an attacker. It did have a high attack, but it at the time didn't used to gain additional attack. The main reason to do it was because with its magic scaling, it could actually create more than just 9 green, 9 blue. It used to be able to do even more than that. A lot of troops back in the day used to be able to create like excessive amount of gems, like infinite if they really wanted to. They could fill the whole board with 64 if you got enough magic on some troops. But what was really good about Vinoxia was the true damage aspect of it. It wouldn't interrupt the Gloomleaf. Plus, with the true damage, you would be able to start killing them down. This was back when HPs in this game were only around like 15, 20, 25. So being able to do 2 over and over again on loop was very strong. And of course, the Shegra. Shegra used to do even more gem spawns as well, and then convert all those reds to skulls. And that would just fill up your Gloomleaf as far as its damage. If it already got extra attack, it would just completely mow through everything. It's basically the Bone Dragon, the old Bone Dragon, Shegra. And other than that, the Silent One. Silent One used to be the must-have in every single team back in the day. It used to not silence itself, and it used to drain as well. Whenever you used to silence an enemy, it used to drain all of their mana as well. So it would stop them from being able to get any mana, it would stop all their spells, plus it would drain their mana. And what you would essentially do with many teams back in the day, you can even see I've set the banner to a blue-yellow here. All you would do is just keep getting the Silent One up over and over again, and you would essentially just lock the enemy team from being able to do anything at all. And this was before traits too, so it's not like you could impervious it or stop it. You could cleanse it off, but Silent One silenced everything, so you couldn't cleanse it by any means. So you were just stuck being silenced, and Silent One didn't silence itself at the time. So all you had to do was get its mana up, and then boom, just keep spamming it over and over again, and the enemy team could never do anything. And if you got a Tangle on them, they could literally do nothing. But normally people would just use Gloomleaf instead. And here onto number 9, we have the Vinoxia Web Spinner combo. One of the most popular decks in the beginning of the game as far as legendary builds. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, Magic used to be able to raise this gem spawn as well as Web Spinner gem spawn. One other thing that happened with Web Spinner to her, she used to only do 1 damage to all enemies and then have the green based on her magic. And this was actually buffed in one patch all the way up to 3 for some reason. And when it was, there was literally just web spinners everywhere. There were even teams of just 4 web spinners. That's how strong it was. Whenever there's any time a meta has like 3 or 4 of the exact same troop into a team, you know it's overpowered. And Brian the Lucky was to try to get the magic buff at the time. It was the only really good, consistent magic buffer. And if you got 1 buff on Vinoxia or Web Spinner, it was just an instant loop, and you would just win from that point. And of course, Silent One, just because of how overpowered its silence was, you would keep it on the team. Vinoxia would be able to fill it with the blue spam and get it up that way. So, number 8. this is actually something that could still work today. You would actually use this with a deep borer instead of an alkalite. But one reason why this was particularly strong, well, for one, like when this game like initially started, this was like only for like 1 or 2 weeks, I think, maybe even less than that. Deep borer actually used to scale its brown gem spawns based on magic, and that was just insanely broken. It was for a very, very short period, but Rockworm would just keep looping over and over and over again endlessly. It was pretty much the first looping troop ever introduced to the game that was just absolutely broken, and it was nerfed out within like a week, I believe, of launch. But even then, it was still very powerful. Alkalite used to have an ability where it creates brown gems based off of its magic at a higher number than this. Plus, it would gain 1 magic every single time it casted. So you would just keep getting more and more and more, and with Rockworms, you would just keep going on forever. You can still do this with a deep borer now, but it used to be even more broken back in the day. And here we have a glitch, which Goblin Shaman. Like I mentioned earlier, there didn't used to be that many weapons that used to give magic. Sun and Moon was one of them, though. It was one of the event weapons. This game used to have a lot of events where you used to be able to get buy weapons for glory. They haven't had one for about 7 months now. But they used to have a lot of these back in the day. Like every single week or every other week, they would have a new weapon come out. And this was one of them, one of the weeks, Sun and Moon. And at the time, like I said, Brian the Lucky and this were about the only things that could really, at the time, raise magic. So Sun and Moon was used a lot. The particular reason why it was used a lot in this team is there used to be a glitch with Goblin Shaman, as well as every other troop in the game that had the ability to both do something to the board and gain extra turns. It was kind of like the Puzzle Quest games in a way, where in Puzzle Quest you can like stun the enemy for multiple turns. Goblin Shaman and anything else that could both manipulate the board and gain a natural extra turn essentially had this too. There was a glitch where if you got an extra turn on the gems that spawn or anything that does the board manipulation, as well as automatically have a gain extra turn, it'll store one of the extra turns into the game, and then you can do something like a normal move and it won't end your turn. You could just take a 3-pair, or you can cast Sun and Moon and it wouldn't end your turn. It would store the double extra turn that you got from the Goblin Shaman or whatever else you happen to use. You could have used Goblin Rocky, you could have used Hobgoblin. Keep in mind, Goblin Rocky and Hobgoblin also only had a 9 mana cost at the time instead of 11. So there were a lot of combinations that you could use with that. And Green Slime would just convert all the greens the Goblin Shamans were making into purple, and then you could just keep looping that over and over again with the Green Slime, endlessly just keep having infinite turns and kill it out with Sun and Moon. Next up, we have Lady Sapphira. Lady Sapphira, way back in the day, used to be the most overpowered troop in the entire game. She was buffed about a month into the game, or a month or two, to do true damage. She used to have pretty much a useless ability, but then she was given true damage, and that was just insane when it did. At the time, things only had about 5 to 10 life, and she was doing enough true damage to do, I think it was like 6 or 7 damage at the time, which was enough to kill about 30% of the troops in the game. 2 of them was definitely enough to kill anything, and a lot of them that she could kill was things like Carnex and quite a few other things that were fairly popular at the time. I think even almost Gloomleaf and a few other really popular options, and she was just absolutely wrecking everything. She used to be so strong that one of her nerfs was, if you wonder why like this is such a weird number here, one of her nerfs was to go from gain 5 life and 2 attack down to only 4 life and 2 attack. That's how the scaling what used to be back in the day, that 1 life change actually helped nerf her some. And yeah, it would have been 7 damage then, because that would make sense. Yeah, she was doing 7 true damage with a 5 life gain and 2 attack when she was fully leveled. And that was enough to kill a lot of troops in this game. And of course, Silent One, you just got to keep them disabled so they can't do anything at all. And your Lady Sapphira would gain so much HP relative to the time and just kill everything that you wouldn't even need to worry about anything else. Next up, we have one of the first teams ever that was able to essentially win on turn 1 as many times as you wanted. It was fairly consistent with it. Some things to note about this team previously when it was functioning like that. Finley actually used to be a green-red instead of a green-yellow, and that helped this build out a lot. When that ended up changing, that actually ended up nerfing the kind of looping that this team was able to do. Another change that really ruined it was Eternal Flame used to spawn colors based on your magic as well. This was before hero classes, so you couldn't make it like ridiculously high, but still it was able to place a red gem and create more than just 7 additional red gems. It didn't have the burn, but one trade-off that made it very powerful was it only had a 6 mana cost instead of an 8. So you got one yellow surge and you'd already be able to place reds on the board and just completely control the board, get all the reds that you need. That one that you can place was very, very important because it would essentially automatically give you an extra turn because you could automatically know where one red is going and the rest of the reds would likely fall in place after that. And then you just feed your Alchemist and Finley with that. Your Alchemist would just feed the Banshee and Eternal Flame. It would just keep going over and over and over and over again until you just won the match. Also, Banshee used to only hit the first troop. It was a glitch. It used to always supposed to be able to hit any troop, but back in the day, it was glitched to only hit the first troop. And back then, it was during this team's shining times too. But back then, she had even more damage relative to some other things, which made her very, very strong with teams like that. She used to be used a lot with Shegra too. And here we have probably one of the funniest troll teams that ever happened. When they added legendary traits, before Legends and Mythics didn't used to have, well, Mythics didn't even used to exist, but Legendaries used to not have their own unique trait. They used to just have some kind of random trait that all other troops used to have. But one update, I forgot specifically which, I think it was 2.0, ended up adding a legendary traits to all troops. And this was probably one of the most hilarious exploits of any of them, was with Celastasia. At the time, it was creating 10 gems per cast, and that was static. But between its cleanse, between the fact that it gives life, between just how many gems it spawned, it might not seem that much, like the difference between an 8 and 10 gem spawn, but it was absolutely huge, the kind of difference that it made. It gave all the dragons on the team, which is all of itself, extra life. That would be 8 extra life. That would be 8 extra skills to everything, or whatever it lands on, plus the Divine Barrier. Whenever you do 4 times or higher matches, the Celastasia would just loop endlessly with the yellow-blue banner, and you just keep going and going and going. And it was actually one of the first instances in the game where, depending on the team that you chose, it could be literally impossible to win because the Celestasias would just have so much HP, and if you didn't have Devour or Deathmark or something of the like, you just wouldn't be able to win. Next, up to number 3. Another thing, using the Goblin Shaman and Web Spinner. Of course, the Web Spinner back when it had 3 damage. The Goblin Shaman's back when it had the infinite turns, and the Goblin Rocket, which could set it up. This was just absolutely ridiculous how quick it could just keep getting into a loop and then just instantly win. Web Spinner would just keep going on endlessly upon endlessly, especially if you were to place one of these out, maybe for Brian the Lucky, and tried getting a magic buff on it. Any magic buff on a Web Spinner back in the day would just instant win. And when it added it to 3, it made it instant win, plus it didn't take forever. So it was just absolutely broken. It was so much fun to see. I really wish I could have footage of some of this, but I don't really think footage of any of this really even exists anymore, which is very unfortunate. Next up, probably one of the most broken things that has ever happened. When traits first came out, there was really no telling what the balance would be. And something that ended up coming up was a trait that had a 100% chance to deal true damage on skulls. And this absolutely broke the entire game to the ground. It was so hilarious when traits first came out. Glade Wardens and Centaurs were just absolutely insane. Let me go just get a Centaur up real quick. What they used to be is, this didn't used to be armor piercing. I believe it used to be called True Shot, and it used to have a 100% chance of dealing true damage on skulls. And Glade Warden used to have Agile instead of Nature Spirit, and Centaur used to have the 100% chance to do skull damage, I believe, instead of Air Spirit, instead of Faster Air Spirit, I forget which. It didn't have that. And one of the very popular ones to do with it was with a Glade Warden, or was either a double Glade Warden and double Centaur, or some kind of combination with that, with either a Skeleton or a Bone Dragon. At the time, Bone Dragon actually used to be even more overpowered. Can you believe that? Yes. Bone Dragon at the time used to have a 2-to-1 ratio. Of course, armor values used to be lower, but it was still relative to how overpowered a Bone Dragon is today. But Skeleton was actually even more powerful than Bone Dragon for like one patch. The main reason for this was because Glade Wardens or Centaurs or anything that had the 100% chance to deal true damage, at the time, there were a lot more attack kingdoms and not as many HP and armor kingdoms and the such. And because of this, the attack scaling on troops at the time were able to one-shot the HP of almost every single troop in the game. So you would only need a skeleton because you only need one pair. You don't need to skull spam them because you don't need the extra damage. You just need to take a skull, take like a 4 pair off a skeleton, take another 3 pair, and there you go. You just killed half the team. And then you just keep doing that again, get another skeleton, get a purple surge, get it back up, and then boom, you just instantly just rolled the entire enemy team. And Glade Warden, I think, was used more than Centaur, mainly because it had the Elf Bond, and being able to get 6 life on all allies at the time was really good. Not only would you be able to negate the fact that people were trying to true damage kill you, which would bring you to a high enough HP that they wouldn't one-shot you, it also allowed you just to be able to completely roll them with the agile, with the everything. Because you had the 20% chance to dodge, you had the 100% chance to instantly kill them, and you had the Elf Bond, which would protect you from other people instantly killing you. It was just absolutely insane. Actually, this one could probably be the number 1, but there is one specific one that I wanted to keep for number 1. It is actually something that is my most popular video, actually made a slight mention to it. When I first started this YouTube channel, or when I started doing this YouTube channel on a regular basis, it was towards the end of April. There was a nerf to this troop right here, Dust Devils. So for some context to this, when Dust Devils first came out, it used to scale based off of magic. And this, combined with Empowered, allowed you for the first time ever to win without ever touching the board. All you had to do was cast Dust Devil, cast Dust Devil, cast Dust Devil, cast Dust Devil, and you won. That's literally all you had to do, and you could beat essentially any team in the entire game with that. You would set the yellow banner in case they had something that would revive them, like a 25%, like an Ancient Horror or something like that. You would just have that, get it up quickly, and then boom, just cast again, and then just kill it. And it was just completely broken because you didn't even have to touch the board. And I was actually, for one of the first videos when I was going to start back up this YouTube channel, as far as doing it on a regular basis, one thing that I was going to do is do a go from 500 rating all the way up to, or go from the lowest rating, the rank 15, all the way up to the rank 1, you know, that normal PvP thing that you do at the beginning of each week. It used to be star system instead of the rating system, but I was going to do that using just Dust Devils and do a video on that, and they ended up nerfing it the exact day I was about to do it. So unfortunately, I do not have any footage of it, but I'll link a video in the top right of basically the team that ended up replacing this, which still works too, which is kind of funny. And let me see, it is War and Peace. I've shown it a couple times. I figured I'd show it again though. War and Peace with double Soothsayer. This is essentially the current version of the 4x Dust Devil, and you use this mainly in challenges with an Archer class where you need at least the fast trait. And all you have to do is set the banner to double brown, take 1 brown, and you're just good to go. Doesn't even matter if it surges because you have the other brown links that will, all the brown links on the Soothsayers, that just a single brown pair will get you all the way up between the fast, between those traits. Just take a brown, you got all of your mana, you cast this, and you team wipe. And it doesn't work as well as the Dust Devils because you can't use this in PvP, or at least this late in the game, you can't use it in PvP because it wouldn't be using enough colors. But you can use it on challenges, and it is essentially the Dust Devils of the now. But that is my top 10 for teams that used to be good in this game that ended up just being completely funny, broken, or something else. Feel free to leave your own in the comment section below. I know there's a lot of nostalgia and a lot of other different teams that are here that I didn't mention. There's probably several dozen that some of you probably remember using way back in the day, and feel free to share them for people who didn't really get to experience them. I really wish I could get like some of the older builds of the game and like show some of them. I'm pretty sure the devs have it. I might do it eventually if I can get in contact with them with that. I don't even know if they saved it or not, but there were definitely some very, very funny moments in the last 2 years of Gems of War. But hey, 2 years down, let's see where else this game goes. That will do it for now. Thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful day.